if he doesn't catch something nice on Fifth Street, he's going to be in a position to fold quickly. Um, he's making a small mistake on Fourth Street, but it's not a big deal. You pretty much, you know, if you have the lowest card up, you raise every single time. On Third Street, the difference would be, the only time you would play differently would be when you have a very sticky opponent who just plays back constantly, and you both have 8 or lower up. In that spot, you know, he can rep that he's not far behind you or whatever. So, whereas if you have a small card up and he has a 10, he's very likely to still be behind on 4th Street, and that's where the game is kind of, I don't want to talk like I'm a total Raz expert, but a lot of the game revolves around the fact that in small pots, meaning when there hasn't been a re-raise on 3rd Street, the worst board should usually just check fold on 4th Street. If there has been a re-raise, so this is the first raise or whatever, the complete, if there has been a re-raise, then you're supposed to take a card off, basically no matter what, on 4th Street. So for that reason, re-raising when you think your opponent is raising light or whatever to set up a bluff doesn't really make sense. So in this spot where there wasn't a re-raise, he should have just bet out when I pair my 3 on 4th Street, and I would have called, but that's only because I had a pretty high quality hand. And if I had had like a typical, I mean, obviously I'm raising with every card, with any 2 cards in the hole there, having the lowest up card, I would have had to fold when I pair on 4th Street. So here he just called the bring-in with an ace up. Because I have a small card up, it's not an absolute slam dunk that he has a monster. If I had like a 9 up and he just called with an ace, then for sure he has a monster. But I still am very confident he has very low cards. So even though I catch a nice card and, you know, whatever, I'm not calling. Even if I had a 9 here, I wouldn't consider calling. I know he's extremely stacked right now. Probably has ABC right there. Deuce 3 in the hole. And on top of that, the pot has been kept super small, so the pot odds are not compelling. So easy pass. That's enough. Raz, I think you get the picture. Yeah, I can't even tolerate any more of this myself. I can't imagine how you feel. 7 stud is a game. One thing that's nice about heads up 7 stud is you don't have to pay much attention to know how live your hand is, since you don't have to look all around the table. It's a big part of 7 stud in a full ring game. Generally, when you have the highest card up, you should raise. It doesn't kill you to. You can't get run over too bad in this game by folding just total trash hands. Here, I raise and I get re-raised, which means a probable pair of jacks, but it could mean he has an ace in the hole and doesn't believe my ace, since I would raise pretty much anything. When I pair the queen, 2 things. Well, one, he checks. Fourth. I'm sorry, he doesn't check 4th Street. Okay. When I hit the queen, I now have 2 overcard kickers to go with my pair. So if my hand is even the worst, and it's possible he has like a 3 flush, or something like ace queen jack, ace king jack, that's trying to re-steal because he knows I would raise a lot of hands with an ace. Either way, I have 8 outs to improve to at least queens up, and I have 3 cards to come. So I'm like 45% to improve. something in that neighborhood, and that's a lot. So I'm going to the river here. It's not like, even if I knew for certain he had a pair of jacks, I would go to the river. Um, and it's actually kind of a tough decision, given how strong his board looks. If he bets the river, whether I should call getting 8-1. Thankfully, he just checks back with his original pair of jacks, and the hand plays out completely standard. I mean, this point's been made before, but it's completely different. There's a lot more chasing in stud because you're not than in hold'em, because you're not using community cards. So a pair of tens catches a pair of jacks pretty often, and a lot of times enough money has gone in early. Really, you can only abandon the hand if the pot is small on Fifth Street and your opponent really could have something quite strong. Some, like he's got a two flush and a two straight to go with his probable higher pair or whatever. The action's heating up a little bit here now. On the last hand, I brought it in with a 10. He raised with an ace, and I had a pair of tens, but that is the one hand, since I can't have any overcards, obviously, where I am drawing very thin, or relatively thin, if I'm behind, if he has the hand he's representing. I decided to just keep the pot small, see what would happen. Maybe he could make a big mistake if I improved a 2 concealed pair on Fifth Street. By Fifth Street, he can continue just bluffing. I don't think he can just fold tens there, since most players are raising with any 2 cards down when they have an ace up. Beyond that, it's interesting that he just immediately, when I called, he just immediately gave up checking 4th Street and folding to my bet. That's good to know that he'll do that, and interesting to follow if he always does that, or if he's just trying to represent that he does it. Here he re-raises me with a 9, indicating a probable pair of 9s, but then he checks 4th Street again, which is weird. I would expect him to always bet if he had some kind of 3 flush that made a 4 flush, and not go for some kind of weird check raise. It's pretty weird once you take the initiative in stud to give it up on the next street. So I just don't think he has that strong of a hand unless he's got some kind of monster rolled up. Now he raises me on 5th Street. I've improved, and it's just suspicious enough that I re-raise, hoping to make him just fold immediately or fold on 6th Street. He doesn't, so he probably does have like the one hand that makes sense, which is he improved to kings up somehow, or he had 2 pair that he played weird, and it is he had king 9 in the hole, and improved to kings up and just took a beat. But he I guess you could say good play, because he induced some spazzing from me by not betting an obvious betting situation where I have to call. So I don't know. This is definitely enough of a hand just to raise for value 2 overcards to his door card, but also I have the obvious opportunity to bluff just by having a higher card than him. Here he raised with an ace and then immediately checks when I improve on 4th Street. So I am inclined to test him. I don't remember what I did here, but I think I should be betting, because I think he just gives up, even though he gave up last time, and I think now I should really bet, because at higher limits you might see people who check there to 5th Street looking for a check raise, but at these stakes they don't, and I finally get the message and throw in a bet there way too late. I should have fired immediately on 4th Street, given the way he gave up before. I pair my door card. There's like very little chance of getting action. Checking it back looks even stronger, or checking it looks even stronger.